Welcome back to the Exposure History channel. Be sure to subscribe and like so you don't miss out on more videos like this one. In 1966, bullets flew near Dang, Vietnam. See the guy on the ground? That's Thomas Cole. He's already been hit, but he's not out. What's wild is, instead of crawling to cover, he's crawling toward a wounded buddy. He drags himself over, bleeding the whole time, and starts giving first aid right there. No med kit, no backup, just instincts and guts. And get this, he holds it down, treating his teammate until a chopper finally shows up. That's not a movie scene, no dramatic music, just real-life courage caught in a split second. April 30th, 1975. Chaos explodes in Saigon. They're rushing the last helicopter out of Saigon. It's the final flight of something called Operation Frequent Wind, one of the biggest emergency airlifts ever pulled off. Thousands of people, U.S. staff, Vietnamese civilians, climbing over walls, begging for a seat. No second flight, no waiting list. If you missed this chopper, that was it. Now jump way back to 1917. Different scene. U.S. Navy sailors at a stateside base, probably Norfolk. They look like someone strapped a couch cushion to their chest. That's because they're stuffed with kapok, a natural plant fiber. Super floaty, even when wet. Weird, but it worked. No zippers, no plastic buckles, no high-tech anything. Just simple padding to keep you from sinking. Would you trust that thing in rough seas? Honestly, hard to say. But for sailors back then, it was a lifeline. And here's the cool part. This design was the first step toward modern survival gear. These chunky vests literally changed the game. Nitin Citisiv, Seattle. A stretcher rolls through the medical center. It's carrying John Brower Minnick, just 37 years old. He weighed nearly 1,400 pounds, the heaviest human ever recorded. Let that sink in. Doctors were stunned. They'd never seen a case like this. His body was basically collapsing under its own weight. Getting him here wasn't easy. It took over a dozen people, special equipment, and a reinforced stretcher. This wasn't just about numbers. Every part of his care was uncharted territory. How do you even run tests when the machines weren't built for this? May 1969, Vietnam. A U.S. paratrooper waits in the AA Valley. This wasn't just a skirmish, it was days of non-stop fighting, right near the Laos border. Take that hill, simple on paper. In reality, airstrikes rained down, medevacs flew in and out, and the terrain just wouldn't let up. It earned the name Hamburger Hill because it ground people down, physically and mentally. Looks like just another jungle hill, but for the guys who were there, it was a nightmare they'd never forget. Why fight so hard for one piece of land? The answer reveals a war few truly understood. A teacher raises the paddle. The student? Bent over the desk, waiting for what's coming. This wasn't unusual. Back then, this was discipline. Corporal punishment wasn't questioned. It was expected. Teachers had full authority to smack first, ask questions later. And here's the wild part. Parents usually supported it. Schools didn't run on patience. They ran on fear. Today, this would spark outrage. But in 1905, just another day in class. So when did things start to change? That shift, from control through pain to teaching with respect, is a story of slow, stubborn progress. 1917, Chilwell, Nottinghamshire. Inside the National Filling Factory, women take charge. Not sewing, not filing papers. They're packing explosives. This was the National Filling Factory, and during World War I, it ran almost entirely on female workers, thousands of them handling live ammunition day in and day out. No safety gear like we'd expect today. No formal training either. Just step in and don't mess up. One mistake could mean disaster, but they still showed up. Every single day. This wasn't office work. It was war, just from a different kind of front. In 1970, Apollo 13 drifted in lunar orbit. See that wreckage? That's the service module, blown wide open. The damage was really bad. And it all started on April 13th. One of the oxygen tanks just exploded. No warning. 1 second, they're heading to the moon. Next, It's all about survival. The crew had to scrap the mission and cram into the lunar module, basically a tiny space camper not built for long trips. They were freezing, low on power, and figuring it all out in real time. Every move was do or die. This wasn't about exploration anymore. It was a straight-up space emergency, and somehow they pulled through. Europe, 1944. Soldiers march in gas masks, but they're not alone. Look closer. Right there beside them? Dogs, also masked up. Yeah, that's not for show. These dogs were trained for war, and the masks were real protection. This was prep for chemical attacks. Poison gas was a real threat, so both troops and their dogs had to be ready. It's kind of incredible. Man and dog side by side, trained for the same mission. Same risk, no guarantees. Makes you think, how far does loyalty really go? In this case, all the way to the battlefield. August 13th, 1961. Berlin wakes up to chaos. That's the start of the Berlin Wall, going up fast with zero warning. In this photo, you can see the panels going in, right in the middle of East Germany. By the time it was finished, 155 kilometers long. Families cut off, roads sealed, no way out. This wasn't just about borders, it was about control. A physical line that said, "You're not going anywhere." One night, you had freedom. Germany, 1940. Deep inside a wind tunnel in Gutting, engineers lock eyes on the Messerschmitt Bf 109. Engineers are locked in, watching every shift in airflow, every flex of those wings. This wasn't just any plane, it was one of the fastest, most advanced fighters of its time. You can almost hear the wind screaming through that tunnel. They were pushing the limits, fine-tuning every inch for speed and power. What were they building here? It wasn't just a plane, it was a weapon, one that would change the air war in World War II. 1938, Hollywood, California. Two women trade punches on a rooftop ring. That's the Ball Building, which is now part of Paramount Studios. And no, this wasn't staged for a movie. This was real training, real athleticism, real grit. Women's boxing was starting to get traction right alongside a rise in fitness, film roles, and sports for women in general. In a town run by men, this rooftop fight, it turned heads. Because back then, just stepping into the ring was a statement. In 1937, William Stye stands beside a giant, Maurice Tillet. They called him the French Angel. The face is unforgettable. He was a pro wrestler, and crowds were stunned just seeing him walk in. His look came from acromegaly, a rare condition that causes bones to grow abnormally. It gave him size, power, and a presence that freaked out opponents. But here's the wild part. Years later, that face inspired the look of Shrek. Turns out, sometimes real life is even stranger than animation. England, 1941. Inside the Ministry of Supply factory, workers lock a gun turret onto a Matilda tank. Looks simple, but this part? It's the tank's punch, its main firepower. Every bolt, every alignment had to be exact. No second chances once this thing hits the battlefield. Before any tank rolled out, it had to pass brutal field trials. Mud, rough terrain, live fire, the works. This wasn't just assembly, it was pressure-packed engineering for survival. 1923, Gorky, Russia. A quiet photo captures a fading giant. That's Vladimir Lenin, the revolutionary leader. It's the last known photo of him alive. He'd suffered 3 strokes by this point, could barely speak, couldn't move much either. Once the face of a massive political shift, now surrounded by doctors, completely out of the loop. No speeches, no power plays, just silence. This is how Lenin spent his final months. Not leading, just fading. London, 1939. Models walk the runway with gas masks. These outfits weren't just stylish, they were built for survival. Designed for life in air raid shelters, every detail had a purpose. Hoods, heavy fabrics, quick access features, ready for bombs, blackout nights, and gas attacks. This was fashion meeting fear, right as war closed in. Style didn't disappear, it just got tougher. Because even under threat, Londoners still found a way to stay sharp. This was survival gear, with a little flair. London, 1941. St. Peter's Hospital is hit hard, torn apart by German bombs. The nurses aren't running, they're digging. Right there in the rubble, pulling out patients, clearing debris, doing whatever they can. Most of the hospital's systems were down. But the care didn't stop. This wasn't just medical work, it was pure grit, real courage, right in the middle of the worst. 1855. Near Sevastopol, Crimea, Roger Fenton sets up his carriage. It's a mobile darkroom. He developed photos inside that thing, right on the battlefield. Glass plates, harsh chemicals, no margin for error. One slip, and the shot was ruined. No autofocus, no do-overs. Just one chance to get it right, while cannons were literally firing nearby. This is where war photography really began. Real scenes, real soldiers, captured in real time, raw, risky, and totally groundbreaking. 1895. Kyoto, Japan. No consoles, no pixels, just playing cards. Hanafuda, to be exact. Handmade, sharp designs, top quality. These weren't cheap toys. They were sleek, elegant, and super popular. The company was founded in 1889 by Fusajiro Yamauchi. No Mario, no Zelda, just cards and craftsmanship. Before it became a gaming giant, Nintendo was already winning, just in a totally different way. 1911. Pass Christian, Mississippi. These kids? They're not headed to class, they're lined up for oyster work. At the Pass Packing Company, children shucked shells by hand. Tiny fingers, sharp edges, hours on their feet. This wasn't a weekend chore. It was full-on labor. Their job is to keep up with America's growing demand for seafood. No gloves, no safety rules, and definitely no recess. Just work day after day. Childhood looked a whole lot different back then. April 15th, 1912. The North Atlantic hides a deadly secret, just hours after the Titanic went down. And yeah, this iceberg, it might be the one. Photographed by a nearby ship's crew, it's got a streak of red paint on it. That's the detail that stuck. Experts believe this is the iceberg that struck the unsinkable ship. No radar, no warning, just a deadly collision in the dark. One moment changed everything, and this chunk of ice may have been at the center of it all. 1938, New York City. Roosevelt Hospital trains the next wave of nurses. Just sleeves rolled up and straight into real-world care. They studied anatomy, medical ethics, and jumped into clinical rotations early. This was serious prep for serious work. Public health demands were growing fast, and these students had to keep up. The pressure was real, but so was the purpose. This wasn't just school, it was training for the front lines of care. So how did this training shape modern nursing? The roots of today's healthcare started right here. December 5th, 1933. Chicago bars erupt with cheers and clinking glasses. The drinks are finally legal again. Prohibition is over, the 18th Amendment was repealed, and the 21st was passed fast. After 13 long, dry years, Americans could finally raise a glass without looking over their shoulders. This wasn't just about booze, it was about freedom, rebellion, and a big exhale of relief. And judging by the cheers, people were very ready to party. Snow, ice, misery. This was the Chilkoot Pass on the border between Alaska and the Yukon. Prospectors climbed this icy nightmare during the Klondike Gold Rush, chasing dreams of fortune. Everyone had to carry 1,000 pounds of gear. By law, not for fun, for survival. That meant multiple trips up and down this steep frozen trail. Over and over. One wrong move, one shortcut, and you might not make it back. So why do it? Gold fever. People were willing to risk everything for a shot at striking it rich. 1960s. A smiling Colonel Sanders stands beside a happy customer. Buckets of fried chicken and bold red and white KFC branding all over the place. Fast food was exploding across America, and Sanders, he wasn't just part of it, he was the face of it. What started in small kitchens turned into a nationwide craving. And yep, America ate it up. 1896. New York City streets are packed, carts, crates, and voices. Fresh fruits and veggies, all sold right on the curb. Most of these sellers were immigrants, just trying to make it in a booming, unforgiving city. No grocery stores, no delivery apps, no safety nets. Just long days, cold mornings, and pure grit. Urban life was taking off, and this was how people kept food on the table. They weren't just selling produce, they were building something bigger. Their legacy still feeds the city today. 1967. Cape Canaveral, Florida. Engineers examined the Apollo White Command Module. Inside, burned panels, melted wires, total wreckage. This was after a ground test went horribly wrong. One tiny spark inside a pure oxygen cabin, and the fire spread in seconds. 3 astronauts lost their lives. No launch, no liftoff, just tragedy. But this wasn't just damage, it was a turning point. NASA had to face some hard truths. And from that moment on, safety came first. 1936, Los Angeles. Charlie Chaplin and Paulette Goddard rest backstage. They're filming Modern Times. And yeah, it's not your average movie. No dialogue, just expressions, timing, and a lot of satire. All set against massive factory sets that captured the struggle of the Great Depression. Chaplin's iconic tramp character gets chewed up by machines, bosses, and society itself. It's funny, but it hits hard. And here's the twist. By 36, sound films were everywhere. But Chaplin kept it silent. Total cinematic rebellion. He knew sometimes, saying nothing said everything. A woman throws punches in a New York photo studio. She's not posing, she's training. Women's boxing was gaining steam in city gyms. By the 1880s, gloves meant more than sport. They meant strength, health, confidence, independence. It was all in the swing. This wasn't just fitness, it was a quiet revolution. So how did boxing help women fight back, inside and outside the ring? The story packs a punch. 1890, Boston. A girl grips a pole in gym class. This is Charlestown High School, and they're trying something new. Swedish exercises, not just stretching or games. This was about building real strength and posture, especially for girls. Back then, this was a big shift. Physical education wasn't a given, especially not for young women. But schools were starting to get it. Fitness wasn't just for soldiers and athletes. It belonged in the classroom too. Does Swedish move like this? They laid the groundwork for a whole new way to think about health and education. 1924, New York Harbor. Jenny McGregor gets busted. Her hiding spot? Life preservers. Those weren't for safety, they were stuffed with flasks. Prohibition was in full swing. No legal liquor, but plenty of people still wanted a drink. Bootleggers like Jenny got smart. Fake gear, hidden compartments, anything to sneak it through. The law said no, but demand said otherwise. Just one of many who turned smuggling into an art form. 1924, St. Louis, Missouri. The XP-67 Moonbat rolls out at Lambert Field. McDonnell's prototype wasn't just a plane, it was a vision. Blended wings, smooth curves, twin 12-cylinder engines. It promised high speed and high altitude, designed to dominate. Test pilots called it futuristic. Engineers called it radical. But behind the bold design? Problems, engine fires, stability issues, never saw combat. The Moonbat was a marvel, but also a missed shot. Ahead of its time and grounded by it. Freddie Mercury on stage riding Darth Vader's shoulders. Queen's frontman once rode on the shoulders of Star Wars' darkest villain, not in a dream. On stage, it was glam, it was chaotic, it was very Freddie. Only he could turn Vader into a tour prop and make it iconic. Rock and roll met sci-fi. 1961, Jamaica. A young fan hands Sean Connery a coconut. Connery grins, signs it. The cameras roll nearby. It's Dr. No, his first time as Bond. No one knew it yet, but something iconic was taking shape. Sharp suit, quiet menace, cool beyond measure. That coconut? It wasn't just a fan souvenir, it marked the start of a cultural juggernaut. From tropical breeze to global obsession, Bond began right here. He signs it with a smile, mid-shoot on Dr. No, his first time as James Bond. No one knew it yet, but a legend was in the making. Slick suit, cold stare, licensed to thrill. By 1980, Connery was Bond to millions. So how did one tropical shoot spark a global franchise? That coconut moment said it all. 1944, England. James Stewart stands tall at an airbase. Not on set, in uniform, the Hollywood star flew real combat missions. As a U.S. Air Force pilot, he commanded heavy bombers. 20 missions, no stunt doubles, no script. He traded fame for flight and risked everything. So how did a movie icon become a war hero? The real story soared higher than any role he ever played. 1951, Arlington National Cemetery, Virginia. World War II veterans walk among endless white headstones. Each one marks a life laid down for the country. Silence, reflection, sacrifice etched in stone. These men survived, but they carry the weight. Every step is a silent salute to brothers lost. 1914, Tacoma Speedway, Washington. A boy racer and his mechanic strike a proud pose. It's Junior Racers Day, and the stakes are high. The track, a roaring 1.8-mile wooden oval, built for speed, now launching future legends. These weren't just kids' races, they scouted real talent. So how did a timber track shape America's racing dreams? The roar of history started right here. 1959, Paris. Lights flash at the Moulin Rouge. Buster Keaton stands beside Zsa Zsa Gabor, two icons, one snapshot. The silent film legend isn't here for a role, but to honor his legacy. Red carpets, packed events, global admiration, comedy broke sound barriers, and now it's crossing continents. Two icons, one frame. He's not chasing roles, he's honoring a legacy. From silent sets to global spotlights, Keaton's comedy still speaks. Red carpets, cultural acclaim, a legend crossing borders once more. 1972, New York City. On The Godfather set, the cameras roll. Robert Duvall holds a cue card just out of frame. It is because Marlon Brando wouldn't memorize lines. He improvised, raw, real, unpredictable. Lines were hidden around the set, whispered if needed, not laziness method. Brando believed spontaneity sparked truth, and it worked. His quirks reshaped film acting forever. What started as a trick became pure cinema magic. World War II. Japan's defense teams turned to giant metal ears. No radar yet, just towering acoustic tubes. Their mission? Hear enemy planes before they appear. These sound locators amplified distant engines across the sky. Primitive, but they worked. Before radar, sound was the first defense. So how did these eerie machines help guard the homeland? Sometimes the future starts with a whisper. 1965, Chicago. A steelworker stands high above the city, no fear. Balanced on a beam, the skyline stretches beneath him. No harness, no net, just a belt and raw nerve. Every column they placed built the future, one floor at a time. Skyscrapers rose, so did risk. It was danger, pride, and steel resolve. So what drove these men to dance with death in the sky? Their legacy still towers overhead. He's balanced on a narrow beam, skyline rising beneath him. No harnesses, no nets, just a basic belt and guts. Each column they placed shaped the city's future. Skyscrapers climbed, one beam at a time. It was danger, skill, and pride, all in a day's work. So what drove these men to dance with death in the sky? Their legacy still towers above us. 1943, a U.S. airfield. A ball turret gunner straps in tight. He crawls into the belly of a B-17, his battlefield a glass bubble. Twin .50 cals at his side. No space, no escape. Enemy fighters swarmed, he spun, fired, and prayed. No cover, just nerves, reflexes, and raw courage. The ball turret was the most exposed seat in the sky. So what was it like fighting from that fragile sphere of steel and glass? Terrifying and essential. This view came with a price. 1943, September 30th, 1968. Everett, Washington. Crowds gather as Boeing reveals a giant. The 747, massive, sleek, unstoppable. Over 400 seats, 2 decks, 1 game-changing leap. It wasn't just a plane, it was a revolution in the sky. More people, longer distances, travel for the masses. So how did one jet reshape global aviation overnight? Let me know your thoughts in the comment box. 1944, the Pacific. Chaos hits the deck of the USS Lexington. A fighter crash lands, damaged, smoking, blocking the deck. Sailors sprint in, no time to think, only act. Another plane is coming in hot. They drag wreckage clear with muscle and grit. No drills now, just instinct and precision. So how did these deck crews master mayhem at sea? Their speed kept the war in the air. 1942, North Atlantic. HMS Pegasus readies for launch. A supermarine walrus roars on the catapult. Then, boom, it's hurled skyward at 68 miles per hour. No enemy fire today, just brutal training runs, rough seas, cold winds, high stakes. Before saving lives, crews had to prove they could survive. In 1936, a southern U.S. boy waved down passing cars. Ice-cold Coca-Cola bottles glint in the sun. Fresh pavement brought travelers and thirst. Stands like his popped up everywhere, quick, cheap, refreshing. It wasn't just a drink, it was a movement. So how did a roadside hustle help Coke conquer America? This is how soda went viral, long before the internet. 1906, New York City. A 17-year-old steps into the spotlight. Her name is Elsie Janis. She debuts in the Vanderbilt Cup and owns the stage. Born in Ohio, built for Broadway. She sings, she acts, she writes her songs. Audiences are hooked. So how did a Midwest teen conquer Manhattan? Elsie's rise was only the opening act. In 1980, inside a traditional Japanese home, children gather quietly, not for play, for tea, miniature tools, precise movements, absolute focus. This is Chaji, the formal tea ritual taught young. Every gesture whispers respect, balance, and harmony. It's more than a drink, it's life training in a cup. 1963, Amsterdam. Before GPS, drivers picked up the phone. On the line was a real human navigator. Call in, share your location, get turn-by-turn directions. No maps, no screens, just calm voices steering the wheel. It was analog navigation at its peak. So how did this system pave the way for modern GPS? The journey began with a dial tone. 1954. Eisenhower sets down his brush. Wait, the president paints? No war rooms, no briefings, just canvas, color, and grandkids. That's Barbara, David, Ann, and Susan, immortalized with quiet focus. From D-Day to Dabs of Oil, talk about a plot twist. Over 300 paintings. Who knew the 5-star general had such an artsy streak? 1953. City slickers saddle up at Mayan Dude Ranch, Bandera, Texas. Not real bulls, just the wild mechanical barrel. Strapped in tight, they ride the bucking beast of steel. It's yeehaw meets safety harness, rodeo chaos, minus the hospital bill. Perfect for wannabe cowboys chasing thrills with a soft landing. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on anything.